5 minutes after 11 o'clock. I'm going to show my age. Ready for this?
Okay.
I have a story from My Three Sons. Remember the TV show My Three Sons?
Oh, yeah, I like that show.
Okay. So Ernie, for those who remember My Three Sons, Ernie was one of the sons.
Yeah.
And Ernie came back from school, and he was all upset because his teacher gave him an F on his essay that he wrote. And the father, Fred McMurray, was the actor. He read the essay, and he said, "I don't understand. This is a wonderful essay." So he goes to the school, and he says to the teacher, "What's up with this? Why did Ernie get an F? This is a wonderfully written essay." And she says, "Because that's not Ernie's writing. That's not how he talks." But Ernie said, "No, that's the way I write. I swear that I didn't copy from anybody." Well, long story short, he didn't. He really did write that way. And at the time, I was a kid, probably Ernie's age or whatever. And I remember thinking the same thing because I was shy, which is kind of hard to believe because I do this radio show now, but I was. And so I didn't talk a whole lot. But yeah, when I wrote, I could write and I could relate to Ernie. And I was thinking, I don't want to get an F. Grades were so important. I can remember getting a report card with a low grade on it and sweating. For fear of what my mom and dad were going to say when they saw the bad grade, oh man, and it was such a big weight, right?
Yeah.
Paul Hughes might have some help for the young me or the counterpart to whoever was back then, the student in school right now. He's got a book. It's called Change Your Grades, Change Your Life. Paul has dedicated his life to being a teacher, and he's sharing what he knows with us right now. Good morning, Paul Hughes. It's an honor to have you on the show.
Good morning. That opening anecdote is just a perfect insight to what I found out. And what I found out in general was that at some point I was looking at students who should have were literally the profile of A students, coming to class, doing all the right things, studying everything else. And then finding out, like on the midterms or something that the grades didn't reflect that. They really did poorly on the grades. And I thought, I got to do something about this. So long story short, I spent some time after class sitting down and interviewing some of the students and finding out what was going on. And as it turns out, they had some negative fears and belief about exams. And of course, the pressure of exams to succeed on exams is huge because the outcomes of the exams controls whether or not, what kind of colleges you can apply to and future plans you have for your life. So long story short, what I found out in each and every case, I interviewed a bunch of students, is that they had these negative thoughts and beliefs about exams. And what happened was the pressure of that caused them, just overwhelmed them when they took the exam. So the typical way that it goes is they fail an exam. The next time around, they fail again. And this sets off a cycle, and this is very, very interesting from a psychology standpoint. This sets off a cycle of something called negative self-talk. Whether it's exams or anything else that we as human beings get frustrated about, without realizing that we start bitching to ourselves, why can't I do this or why can't I do that? That bitching programs the same outcome over and over. And that's what my students were doing. They were saying, why can't I remember what I study? Why do I freeze up when I take an exam? There was a whole list of them. There were about a list of 6 or 7 of the most common of them. So I knew from some of my study of psychology that the way we talk about ourselves to ourselves and to other people about ourselves literally creates the outcomes in our lives. That's the way it works. So I turned around.
That's a very profound thing to say. That's very profound. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Go ahead.
Yeah. Let that sink in a little bit.
Yeah.
So what I did was I turned those statements, those negative statements, around into the exact opposite of what they were trying to achieve. So there were 6 or 7 statements, and they would read like, why do I feel so relaxed and comfortable when I study for an exam? Why do I remember most of what I study? Why do I feel relaxed and comfortable when I take an exam? And there were a handful of them. And all they had to do was spend not more than 5 minutes a day reading these things a few times with the attitude as if and the belief that it had already happened. And I can't tell you how fast these things kicked in. I've had students who, within a week of reading those statements, and I gave them a quiz or an exam, I saw dramatic improvement.
That's brilliant.
In their grade.
Oh my gosh, that is so brilliant. So was there an exercise in actually answering the questions, or did the question being asked serve the purpose without even getting an answer?
You're reading them as if it already happened. It's like you're playing make-believe.
Yeah.
Reading them as if it's already happened.
That's awesome.
And the brain and the subconscious mind picks it up and runs with it, and voila. It's pretty amazing. It's still amazing to me. The feedback I get from the students about the process is the biggest outcome for them. The first thing I hear from all of them is how it changes their self-esteem. It increases their self-confidence. It's basically like conquering Mount Everest. They never thought they could do it.
That's really...
And when they did it, and when they did it, they realized, if not even at a conscious level, that if I can do this, maybe I can accomplish other things. But the feedback from the parents and the students has been really interesting. The parents, needless to say, are grateful and relieved.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, because the parents, that'll give them less anxiety if they know that their child is doing well in school. Because as a parent, you don't know really how to help without trying to overstep your bounds.
Oh yeah. I mean, if you're a parent and your child is struggling in school, you feel for them, you feel bad about it, or you're angry because maybe they think that you're not studying enough. But that's not the case. The students love it. Interestingly enough, the feedback on the book, by the way, is a very quick illustrated guide that takes all about 10 minutes to read. The student feedback on it is they love it because they can self-identify themselves in the book. They can read stuff from other students, and the little exercise is right in the book. And by the way, it can be bought both on Amazon and through my website, which is changeyourgrades.com.
And by the way, I'm looking at it on Amazon. You have 5-star reviews across the board. It's available as a Kindle as well. I have a question, Paul.
Yeah.
First of all, let me just congratulate you. That is brilliant, and I have so many more questions about the concept. But before we get there, because we might not have enough time to get there. Gosh, these interviews, the good ones are always so short, aren't they, Robin? But my question is this: could a student who embraces this and actually has that psychological shift, could he or she be sabotaged? Let's say they're in the classroom ready for the test, and the girl next to him or her says, I hate tests, I'm so scared. Does that sabotage, or do they have the armor, for lack of a better word, to ward that off?
I don't know, but I believe that it wouldn't matter. Once your subconscious mind grabs onto a belief, that's the outcome you get, and that's what the reading the exercise does.
Have you used this idea for yourself in areas other than education?
I absolutely have, and that is a terrific question. These statements that are written are called afformations with an O as opposed to affirmations. And the whole trick is that you're asking yourself a positive question as opposed to a negative one. But yes, they work on anything.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And is it hard for some people easier for some than others to work?
I've never had a student, and by the way, I have a lot of students with ADD, and the reading blows right through it.
Oh my gosh,
wow.
You have stumbled upon something that is amazing. Did this come from a dream, or were you studying like philosophy from the Far East or something? I mean, where did this come from?
No. I've been a student of energy psychology, different energy psychology protocols, behavior modification techniques. And I will tell you, this is the most satisfying thing I've done in my life, because it changes the futures for these kids. It helps the parents, and it's just such a win-win. I mean, think about the fact that your kids that these kids can get themselves straightened out with their grades, have more opportunities, and enter society with a high level of, a good level of self-esteem and self-confidence. I mean, multiply that times every student who does this, and it's the most satisfying thing I've ever done.
Paul, you have hit a home run with this one. Change Your Grades, Change Your Life is the name of the book. I think if you're not in school, just take away the first part and just change your life. I think if you apply this, you're going to see some interesting results.
Yeah, it has a lot of positive side effects, and it's been the feedback from the parents and the students has been overwhelming.
Oh my gosh!
Beyond my expectations, and you folks have the same level of excitement about it that every program I'm on, they're going, wow, this is
Oh, I'm glad. Well, it's not surprising to me, because it's almost you know what it is too. Without even trying it, it rings true. There's just something about it that makes me say, oh my gosh, how come we never thought of this before?
Sometimes it happens with just one type of exam, and typically it's math. And I had several students who were flunking math.
Interesting.
I wrote special statements for them, and one student I gave them to, and she was an A student in every other class, but not in math. She didn't use it the next semester. She failed math again. And then the following semester, she used it, and she got straight A's in math. She's one of the testimonials on Amazon, and she says, now I like math.
There's a psychological part of this, and I think I have a memory that I might have stumbled on this myself when I was a kid. Let me tell you what happened. I was at lunch, and I was very worried about a test that was going to happen after lunch. And my mother used to make my sandwiches, and it was bologna and cheese, and it was Tuesday. It was Tuesday, and Tuesday was always tuna fish day. And I said, wait a minute. If I'm getting bologna and cheese, that means it's going to be different. The test results are going to be different today. And they were. I got a really good grade that day.
I'll give you an example of myself. When I was in high school, I was a pretty good student in high school, but I was terrible in math. And when I looked back on this, and I should have figured it out sooner after I'd written the book, my mom told me my dad was an Air Force pilot, combat pilot, and my mom had told me when I was a kid and very vulnerable to believing things. I was probably in the 6th or 7th grade. She must have told me a million times that my father was afraid he was going to fail getting through the pilot school because he was poor in math. But somebody tutored him in math, and he got through. And I look back and I realized, and I thought to myself, and I adored my father. So I believe that if my father wasn't going to be good in math, I wasn't, and I was a nightmare in math. I mean, I was getting 40s and 50s, and that's the way it works.
That is interesting. Oh my gosh, you've hit on something that's probably the core of who we are and how we become who we become. Yeah.
But there's hope, because there are ways to change.
I love that. Paul Hughes, thank you so much. ChangeYourGrades.com. Check out this book and apply it to things beyond school. But, of course, use it with the kids in school, too. Paul, thank you for being on today. That was awesome.
My pleasure.
All right. We'll be right back.
Broadcasting from the Paddock Mall Studios, this is WOCA, Ocala, Gainesville, The Villages, 1370 AM, 96.3 FM, The Source.
Loaded, hauled